What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. It's time for Summerslam, but not just any Summerslam, but the first one being run without Vince McMahon. Will the new creative team take things into a new direction, or will it be business as usual? Well, join us now as we look at all the winners and losers of this year's SummerSlam. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. And the first match is a no disqualification match as the Mysterios of Rey and Dominic Mysterio take on the Judgment Day of Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And there are two big questions surrounding this match. Will Edge finally return to revenge himself on his former faction, and will Dominic Mysterio join the Judgment Day as many fans have speculated? Well, the feud between the Judgment Day and the Mysterios picked up some steam on this week's Raw thanks to the Judgment Day beating down Rey and his family during their backstage celebration, but it's time to capitalize on this and turn an average, well, some might say awfully average feud into a white-hot program. Now, turning Dom heel is one way, but how crazy would it be for Rey to turn on Dominic, joining the Judgment Day? Who knows, he could be ashamed of his son not reaching the heights he has in the WWE. And we can dream, but after Rey's super babyface promo on Monday night, it would make no sense, and we're hopeful that the new creative team avoids hotshot booking. But our final prediction, the Judgment Day wins. Next up is Logan Paul versus The Miz. Now, this feud is a reminder of two things. Number one, The Miz can work with anyone as long as he's a heel, and number two, Logan Paul's babyface run is already a disaster. While we know of the conditions for Paul working in the WWE was that he turned babyface, the reality is that he's a natural heel and the fans have no intention of cheering him. The Miz could deliver a skull-crushing finale to a 5-year-old, punt a puppy into the crowd, and the fans would still cheer him against Logan Paul. With that being said, this match will be fascinating because fans will get to see how Logan fares in a one-on-one match. His WrestleMania tag match was impressive, but this is Paul's first test. This isn't a sink or swim situation as Paul seems to have the basics down well and The Miz can carry him as needed. But look for The Miz to bump like crazy, gain the advantage through treachery with outside interference from Maurice or Ciampa, only for Paul to stage a gutsy comeback and get the win. Our final prediction, Logan Paul wins. Next up is the Raw Women's Championship match as Bianca Belair takes on Becky Lynch. And there's plenty of backstory for this match as Bianca still remembers Becky Lynch's surprise return at last year's SummerSlam and even more surprising heel turn and championship squash. Since then, the EST has worked hard to regain the Women's Championship from Becky and prove she's cut out for the main event. Belair still has one thing to complete her journey though, defeat Lynch at SummerSlam and get payback for last year's humiliating loss. That could be a problem as Lynch is more determined than ever to have gold around her waist, and she'll have to show she'll stop at nothing to get it. The big time Bex Express is charging through SummerSlam, but it's about to experience the phenomenon Gorilla Monsoon famously described as the irresistible force meets the irresistible object. A look for Belair to derail Lynch's train as Bianca looks ahead to a new challenger such as Bayley. What's next for Big Time Bex is anyone's guess, but a strong feud sounds like an ideal way to keep her in the main event without her looking for another women's championship. Our final prediction, Bianca Belair wins the match. Next up, Seth Rollins versus Riddle. But with Seth Rollins still gloating about putting Cody Rhodes on the shelf, it's only natural that the WWE's babyfaces are going after him to get payback while Cody heals up. Here, the WWE couldn't have picked a more capable or sympathetic babyface, as Riddle is still dealing with the loss of the Raw Tag Team Championship and, more importantly, his BFF Randy Orton. Riddle is capable of beating Seth, but Seth has been on a roll ever since he shelved the American Nightmare. Add in the hellacious beating the Visionary inflicted on Riddle on the 25th July Raw, and it's likely Riddle won't be 100% when he faces Seth. Riddle will be all business when he faces Seth, but Rollins is too hot right now and likely won't be on the losing end until Rhodes' return. Our final prediction, Seth Rollins wins the match. Next up, the SmackDown Women's Championship match as champion Liv Morgan takes on Ronda Rousey. It doesn't matter whether Liv Morgan is champion, only because Naomi and Sasha Banks walked out on the WWE. Opportunity knocked and Morgan welcomed it with open arms, much as her fans have embraced Morgan over the last year. There's no denying the WWE Universe is behind Liv and love her current reign as Women's Champion. The WWE seems to have got the fans' memo that Morgan deserves a shot, proving she's worthy of the spot, and while Ronda Rousey is a better wrestler, Liv is going to show the heart that's won the fans over. Add in the timely arrival of Charlotte Flair and even timelier interference from the Queen, and Morgan will get the 1-2-3 over the former champion. It's important that the chicanery go unnoticed by Morgan since she is a babyface and she shouldn't be seen as capitalizing on outside interference or risk looking like a weak champion. With any luck, Morgan can face a new opponent rather than battling Rousey and Flair in triple threat matches. Our final prediction, Liv Morgan retains the SmackDown Women's Championship. Next up, the Undisputed Tag Team Championship match with special guest referee Jeff Jarrett as the champions the Usos take on the Street Profits. The Street Profits vs the Usos is one of the WWE's best tag team programs in some time. Although the Usos' competition has been hit and miss during the latest title reign, their work has been impeccable and up until now, there were no fresh teams that seemed like a worthy successor. That's no longer the case and it's time for the Profits to win and have one last run together before the WWE puts Montez Ford into singles competition. Jeff Jarrett is the X factor in this match but will help maintain order or become the latest example of a special referee who really isn't all that special. Fans should keep their eyes for the Usos' kid brother Solo Sikoa, who's currently working in NXT but is rumoured to be on his way to the main roster. If Jay and Jimmy manage to retain the titles, it could be through some brotherly love from Solo. While this can't be ruled out, we feel that the Street Profits are headed for the winner's circle this time after the controversial loss at Money in the Bank. Our final prediction, the Street Profits win the Undisputed Tag Team Championship. Next up is the US Championship match as champion Bobby Lashley takes on Theory. Lashley and Raw need to win this more than Theory because there doesn't seem to be any end in sight for Theory's push, while Raw can benefit from a babyface champion, especially as long as the WWE and Universal Championships are united. Theory may come close to winning the belt, but with Dolph Ziggler determined to spoil things, a Lashley win seems in the cards. Our final prediction, Bobby Lashley retains the US Championship. Next up, Pat McAfee vs Happy Corbin. Happy days are here again, but not for Corbin, whose volatile temper is once again causing him to write checks with his mouth that his ass can't cash. The Corbin vs McAfee storyline is an example of how the WWE can and should use McAfee, a beloved announcer who has proven he can handle himself in the ring and put on great matches. Pitting Pat against Corbin, a wrestler who is an established heat magnet and worker known for protecting his opponents, was the right move, especially since Pat and Happy have had a real-life backstory as they roomed together briefly during their time on the same NFL team. McAfee had an outstanding match with Theory at WrestleMania and should do even better against Corbin. Although the WWE could stretch this into a multi-match feud, the NFL season is fast approaching and McAfee is going to be extremely busy balancing his roles as NFL announcer on Thursday nights, a SmackDown color commentator on Friday night, and the host of a weekly podcast. Look for McAfee to get the Duke and for Happy Corbin to find a new opponent to make life miserable for. Our final prediction, Pat McAfee wins. And finally, it's time for the main event, as it's a last man standing match for the Undisputed Championship as champion Roman Reigns, who's with Paul Heyman, takes on Brock Lesnar. And while Brock and Roman have fought many times before at big events, this could be their most hellacious match yet, as long as they avoid getting injured and the WWE gives them time longer than 7 minutes. Is it time for Roman to drop the belt? And we see Brock even defeating Reigns and winning the belt, and then out comes Theory to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. So he's got to face Brock Lesnar, and of course this will be an unsuccessful cash-in, and that is our final prediction. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.